Hello again. I want to introduce you to another one of my girls. This is Sherman. She's Seahawk green. I have another guitar that is Seahawk blue. So that one is Wilson, named after Russell Wilson. This is Sherman, named after Richard Sherman. Why? I'll explain in a moment. Sherman is a crescent. What is that, you say? Well, that is a cheap Chinese Stratocaster knockoff that sold new for $50. It's still in production. You can still get these today. And they still cost about $50, and they're still worth about 50 cents. I found her at a Goodwill and picked her up for $15. And so the first question, obviously, with a price like that is, what's wrong with it? Well, what was wrong with it was whoever put the strings on it last had no idea what they were doing. A couple of the strings were wound backwards, and each one of them had a great big gob of leftover string here. They were all tangled up with each other, and I mean, it looked like an absolute rat's nest. Now, yeah, 6 little snips with a wire cutter, and you've taken care of that. So I said, well, you know, for $15, I'll take the risk. And I took it home. That was the only thing wrong with it. That it played fine. All the controls worked, everything, all the pickups worked, everything was in here tight. And so I said, okay, what can I do with this? Well, first I took it to Ron and had him look it over. He has dealt with a lot of crescents before, and he was amazed that this one was in such good shape. In particular, he could not believe that the neck is straight, but it is. And so he said, with that, you can make this into whatever you want. And so I started doing just that. First step was the pickups, because you know how when you go to some children's playgrounds, there's those little speaking tubes. It comes out of the ground and has a kind of a flare on the end, and you can talk into it, and your friend 20 feet away on the other side of the playground can hear you through the other end of the tube, and you can talk to each other. Yeah, those things are better quality than these pickups were. So the first thing I did was yank those out, and I don't know how well you can see, but I put in 3 Seymour Duncan hot rails. I had already named the guitar Sherman, and I put those pickups in because I said, I want this to kick A like Richard Sherman does. And believe me, she does. But from there, I decided I want to make this a project guitar. I want to see how many different things I can do with it. A couple of plans that I have are replacing the pickguard with something a little more attractive and appealing. And I want to see about putting a sustainer in it. I saw a video on YouTube, boy, how many times have you said that, about building your own. And I'm considering doing that with her, but that'll be a ways down the road. Today, we're dealing with something a little more basic, our tuners. You may know from some of my other videos, I'm a huge fan of locking tuners. And that's one of the things I wanted to do to this guitar since the day I bought it. But, yeah, locking tuners cost many guitar units. And so I hadn't been able to afford them. Well, last month I got to go to the, let me try that again. Last month I got to go to the Tacoma Guitar Festival. And not only did I get a chance to watch, meet, and talk with Dave Amato from REO Speedwagon, one of my favorite guitarists, but I found a set of locking tuners. These are hip shots. The ones I put on my other guitar are Fenders, and I like those, but I am not brand loyal at all. So I said, I'll give these a try. These were about half what new ones would cost. And so I said, okay, for that, I'll give it a whirl. Well, here they are. There was one small problem. One of them, or two of them rather, I keep telling people I can only count to one. Two of them were lacking these collars here. But he said, you can contact Hipshot and they'll send you replacements. And so I figured for the price I might as well take the risk. So I took them home, I looked up the model, I contacted Hipshot and said, how much are they? And he said, give me your mailing address and I'll send them to you for free. And I said, the price is right. Now, what I forgot to tell him was that my tuners were the black model. So they sent me chrome collars. I got to looking at it and thought, you know something? I kind of like that. So I'm going to go with that. As my alter ego Irving says, just go with it. So, let's get started. You know, I probably should have known. While I was doing a test run on one of these, I pulled out the old one. I had to basically use something to knock that collar out. It fits nice and snug. Take the new tuner, take the collar off, and discover we have an undersized hole. As I said, this guitar being what it is, I probably should have expected this, but I didn't. So what I've got is I've got a 10 millimeter shank here that has to go into an 8 millimeter hole. I have to decide if I'm going to take my drill to this thing. Do I really want to do that? Do I want to get that deep into this project? I'll be back when I've made up my mind. Since I'm going to have to do some complex stuff to this, I went ahead and yanked the neck off the guitar. And while I was there, I decided to go ahead and give it a treatment. So I shined it up, cleaned it up real good, gave it a treatment with the teak oil. As you can see, it came out very nice. Then I polished up the fretboard, cleaned it, and gave it a treatment with the F1. And, ooh, pretty. So, my plan right now is to drill one hole, test one of the tuners in it, and go from here. Now, you may remember that these tuners are 10 millimeters in diameter, and these holes are 8. Do you have any idea how hard it is to find a metric drill bit in the Tacoma area? Yeah, nobody has them. So a 3/8 is 9.5 millimeters. That was as close as I could get, and I decided to go smaller instead of bigger because you can always ream the hole out, but you can't put stuff back. So everything is all set up here. So let's go ahead and try our first one. Well, that was unexpected. Why did it do that? Really? Yeah, the blooming thing took a little chunk out there, but I should be able to fix that fairly easily. The big question, does the tuner fit? Or can I make it fit? It's snug, but it's going to work. I have a round file so I can hollow those out a tad more as I need to, but it's clear that this size hole is going to work. I just need to be more careful and try to keep it as clean as I can. So here goes the next one. All right, there's our 6 holes. Let's go see about dressing them up properly and getting these things in them. Well, that was an adventure. So, we're ready to put these things in. I think I have everything I need here, including the new washers and mounting screws that came with the new parts. One question that inevitably comes up is that screw hole going to match up with any existing ones? The answer is an unqualified no, it's not. So I'll have to make new ones. For now, let's just get this thing through there. As I said, it's very snug, but I came prepared. And have some sawdust. Question: why do we call it sawdust? It doesn't come from the saw, it comes from the wood. So why don't we call it wood dust? Why do we blame the saw? Yeah, it's having a little trouble getting the last little bit of the way, which doesn't surprise me in the least. But we're getting there. The hole may not be exactly straight either. I had an idea that might be coming just because my drill press may have a slight flaw in it. I need a more solid surface to hit this on. So I'm going to move down to the floor here for just a moment. Okay, it's just about there. And as snug as these are, I'm going to have to make sure I get it straight up and right the first time. Let's go ahead and put the collar on this side. And then we tighten that up. And it should finish pulling us on through. You know, there's a good reason why my dad always referred to this type of wrench as a fist skinner. They're not known for staying where you put them. Alright, we're pretty well flush with the wood and we've got the hole to put the string through. So, I'm going to give it one more hunk and call that good. And I'm going to come back and put that screw in later. or try it now. I'm going to try it now just because I can, but I'll probably end up doing it later. And here's a nice little design flaw. I don't know how well you can see, but yeah, the screw bumps into the tightening knob. It has to go under it. Whoever dreamed that up should have had more pizza and less beer. Well, let's do it. Fortunately, it's got a nice sharp point on it, and we have nice soft wood here, as we saw. So it's going fairly easily. This screwdriver isn't the best for this job. It's pretty worn out, but it's the only one I have that fits these, so that's as far as I can get it with that thing. So we'll have to finish that later after I get a better screwdriver. For now, let's go ahead and put the rest of these in. As you can see, my supervisor is watching everything very carefully, ready to pounce on me the first instant I make a mistake. She's a very, very stern taskmaster. And there we are. The new tuners are in. They're working. And you may notice something funny about them. Yes, these were designed for the other kind of headstock. You know what? This is my project guitar, so I don't care. They work. They look okay. So I haven't put the screws in yet. I'll do that later on and make sure they're all perfectly aligned. But this was fairly easy, even having to remount the holes. Now, if I'd been able to find an actual 10mm drill bit, it would have been a lot easier. Yes, I said bit, not bit. I don't know why. Drill bit. If I could have found one of those, it might have been a little easier, but then it's hard to tell. They're in. They're very snug. These are not going anywhere. So I have a nice solid headstock. I have nice solid tuners. All that remains is to put it back together and play it. All right. Our screws are in. The tuners are aligned. And the neck is back on the guitar. We are all set. Got my string trees back on there and all that good stuff. So all that remains now is to put strings in it. But before I do that, there is one thing I want to talk about, and that is this thing. Get it in the camera. This is called a hemostat. If you know a nurse, he or she can get you one of these. They go through them like they go through Kleenexes. And that is the handiest thing you'll ever get. Because if you need to hold those tiny screws, put it in here and up here, it actually, okay, let's get it in the camera. Up here, it actually locks into place. So it will lock and hold that screw while you're getting it started. It can reach into tight spaces and pick up that thing you dropped. Again, this is called a curved hemostat. There's also a straight one. Which one you want just depends on what you're doing. I recommend having both on hand. You cannot beat this. So, having said that, let's put some strings on her. I got me some Ernie Ball hybrid slinkies. Mainly because these have a little heavier bottom end, and I want to see how she sounds with that. So, yes, Hazel. You rang? I cannot reach you over there. I got to show you my supervisor again here. If you can see her there. She likes to do this. She will lay down and request pets and cuddles. Just out of my reach. So if I want to go pet her like she's demanding, I have to move my chair over, bend myself into a pretzel, and reach down to get her. So it's another act of dominance on her part, just her proving that she really is the boss of this room. And yeah, I acknowledge that. My first guitar was a nylon string acoustic that was twice as big as I was. My goal in learning guitar was to play rock music. A nylon classical doesn't exactly play rock music. At least not until I got a hold of it. And I discovered that I could play any style of music on that instrument and it wouldn't care. Okay, here's how we do a lock-in tuner. We thread the string in there. We loop it around maybe once. Come on. We tighten up the lock so it's pinching the string, and then we bring it up to tune. Now, I'm going to pull this quite a bit tighter because I got an awful lot of play in this. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm just going to lock it and let the tuner wind it around itself. I still have a lock there. That's better. So here we go. And there we are. Nip the excess off. And there we are. Okay. Next. And again, these strings, the low end strings at least, are a mite fatter than the ones that were on here before. So she should have a bit deeper and richer bottom end even than she already has with those pickups. Remember, this one has 3 Seymour Duncan hot rails, which are essentially a nice powerful humbucker that fits in a single coil space. So I suppose in a sense you could call it 2 pounds of pickup in a 1 pound space. However you choose to describe it, I love it. Alright, I'm going to leave this one just a little bit more because ideally the string should go around for 1 loop. Let's see if I can get that with this one. Okay, I had a winder here. What happened to it? You ever have one of those days where you pick something up and then it just disappears? Yeah, I have a lot of those. Today appears to be one of them, because I set a winder out here to make it a little easier for myself, and I can't seem to find it. So okay, that right there is just about what it's supposed to be. So, and again, for those who came in late, I picked this guitar up at Goodwill for $15. Somebody had just plain given up on her. There's my winder. Mostly because they didn't know how to put strings on it, and I'm betting it wouldn't stay in tune for beans. Well, that's because even with the original tuners, they didn't put the strings on right. And the way they had them on there, no way is it going to stay in tune, because the strings are going to be slipping all the time. So these brilliant souls apparently blamed the guitar and just got rid of it. And you know what? Their dumb is my game. So because this is a great project guitar. On its own, yeah, it's a cheap piece of junk. But the most important thing I discovered about this instrument was that the neck was nice and straight. I guess that doesn't happen very often with Crescents. And frankly, my man Ron was baffled when he saw what good condition this was in, because he has never seen a good Crescent. Well, now he has. And so I gave him something to talk about. Okay. As a rule, for strings on my electric, I use 9s. As you may know, I have some issues with the entire left side of my body, really. And I have a little bit of nerve-related weakness in my left hand. So I use somewhat lighter gauge strings just to make it easier on myself, because I'm a self-centered dope. But yeah, that's the reason for that. I have tried 10s, and you know, on a good day, these also turn the other way. Well then, this is going to get interesting. Oh, why do I do these things to myself? So you can watch it on the video, that's why. That and, you know what? It's something to do. And the guitar, in general, is something I love. With these, rebuilding these cheap cast-off instruments is teaching me a lot about the guitar. I don't know what happened there. And it doesn't cost a whole lot. I'm not risking much. And so it's really kind of an ideal situation, especially if you're as ADD as I am and constantly need something to hold your attention. Honestly, if you have any music in you at all, make that your outlet. Whatever instrument you decide to use, whether you use an instrument, whether you use your voice or whatever, yeah, honestly, for the outlet for all that energy and all the excuse me, all the airheadedness and all the rest that goes with being ADD, you cannot beat music. Because music is so flexible. You can be whatever you want musically. And be just fine. And someone will like it. That's the amazing thing. I was told way back when I had that band in Arizona that I've talked about before, I was told that on the keyboard there was nobody better, but I couldn't sing. And that bothered me quite a bit, really, because I had been singing all my life, and most people, the people that I knew, liked it. And that comment really shattered my confidence. So that thoroughly shattered my confidence, and for about the next 10 years or so, when I was in a worship team or any other musical situation, I'd tell people, I have a backup voice, I don't have a lead voice, but I'll definitely cover your back. Well, then something odd happened. My daughter was taking voice lessons from a person that we both thought very highly of. And she still had some coming, but she moved away. And they couldn't do a refund. So I said, you know what? My voice is mediocre. Maybe I can improve it some. And so I used the lessons. My teacher, Linda by name, has told me that first and foremost, I'm a singer. She says I have an amazing tone. The biggest issue is I tend to oversing things. But this is her secret. She discovers the key to making you succeed and shows you how to work it. She has taken me in 2 months. She's completely revolutionized my singing, and now she has a regular gig at a place in downtown Dawson where they do some regular band stuff, and then she gets people up there to jam. And she's been having me sing every week. If you're in Tacoma, come on out. Dawson's on 56th, at 56th and South Tacoma Way. So if you're in Tacoma, come on out. The jam is a lot of fun. And yeah, they even let people like me do stuff there. All right, our strings are in place. Let's tune her up and check her out. Well, here she is. Let's give her a try. I'd say that's a success. She sounds great, the tuners are working perfectly, and we have awesome bottom end. We slipped out of tune because we have new strings and I didn't stretch them, but you get the idea. So, locking tuners. Next, what are we going to do? We're going to replace this ugly, bland, black pickguard with something a lot more interesting. So stay tuned.